very warm welcome to Fishing Towel Films and the second episode of Reeling Back the Years. I hope you enjoyed the first episode, and the second episode goes back to the same lake as I mentioned in the first episode when I was fishing for the roach, which turned out to be a lovely roach session. And I'm still going back to the 1970s, and this was in the autumn, probably I would say round about 1977, 1978 time. And I walked all the way, as I did many times, to Wanstead Park, the boating lake, also known as Perch Ponds, and I was given a second-hand trolley, and the only trouble with it was every now and then the wheel would just collapse on itself, and no matter how I tried to tighten it up, it seemed like every 200 to 300 yards it would just fold up. One side would just fold up. So anyway, I loaded up my trolley and set off probably about, I'd say, 4 o'clock in the morning for the long walk. It was, good 4.5, possibly 5 miles right the way across the flats. Took the best part of an hour. I was quite fit in those days, so I used to go at a fair old lick and drag this trolley all the way across the Wanstead flats, and just so that I could get in some nice fishing. And I went there basically just to have a nice day fishing for the roach and the perch. There was some marvellous days on the perch, being as it was called Perch Ponds. And I used to catch loads of perch up to about a pound and a quarter was probably a big fish in the pond. There were so many of them, but you very rarely caught any under 8 ounces. So most of them were like 10 to 12 ounces, the perch. So great fishing. And I could end up catching 70 or 80 of these. And every now and then you get a nice roach mixed in between, because I used to fish fairly close in on that first ledge off the board section. So anyway, this day, hindered by the trolley that kept collapsing every 200 to 300 yards, I finally made my way over to the boating lake, probably just after about 5 o'clock, I would say now. And there was already a couple of anglers already there, and I made my way up to the board section, and I fished probably round about the halfway mark. Sort of got into a peg. I was quite happy fishing anywhere along that section. I knew the water so well that I just could guarantee catching or having a good day's sport. And my dad was going to be picking me up after he'd finished work, which was going to be somewhere between 6 and 6:30. He worked at Silvertown, and which is why I took the trolley, loaded it up with a bit more gear, and took me umbrella, and which I was thankful for, as you'll find out a bit later. And this episode is called Stormy Weather Tench. So anyway, I'd made my way to the board section, and by then I was fishing with a float, the Indian reed. I don't know if you've ever fished it. Very thin, very sensitive float, and I used to love fishing really sensitive. I guess because I was sort of quite competitive and getting ready to launch myself into a match fishing career, I was fishing light, very light tackle, light lines, and early in the season I'd been losing some good fish. I'd been getting cracked off, and I suspected that they were tench. So I started to step up my main line up to about £3 main line, sometimes 4, and I'd sort of started to use at least £2 hook links, size 18 hooks, maybe a 16 if I was using a bit of corn. Then on this particular day, I was fishing maggots again. I was out for the perch, and almost immediately I was catching right under my rod tip, and nice perch, lovely perch, and I was really enjoying myself. And the lake started to fill up as more and more anglers, because I think it was in the 6 weeks holiday. This was a midweek trip. I think this was actually on a Tuesday, so I reckon it was round about August time, August of that year. I think 1978, maybe 77, that time. And so I was fishing with my Milborough rod, my Abu reel, that one there, my trusty old Abu, and which I love fishing with. Caught me a lot of fish over the years. Great pleasure with it, especially on the rivers. Anyway, I was catching nice sized perch for really up till sort of midday, and then I started fishing a bit further out. I thought I'd have a little go for the roach. Now, I had been feeding small little balls of used to get a ground bait called Kestrel, and it was like, I used to quite like using either a yellow mix or a red mix. You could get like natural, which is like brown crumb flavour, red mix, or yellow, and I was using yellow on this occasion, and just flicking a few balls out, probably I would say in about 6 foot of water. It was quite deep. It sort of dropped away after that first ledge, so I would catch the perch on the first ledge, and then a bit further out I'd pick up some nice roach. And I was sort of catching sort of goer size roach, sort of 10-12 inches long, having an absolutely brilliant day. And then I sort of noticed that the anglers started packing up and started going, and I thought, well, I'm here until my dad picks me up anyway. He's not going to get here till about sort of 6:30, and this was probably sort of 2-3 o'clock now, and weather-wise it had been quite cloudy, which was ideal. The sun every now and then would stick its head out, and there was not much of there was a bit of a light breeze, and around about 3 o'clock I noticed that the wind started to blow into me face, so it was coming straight into the bold sections, and I'd already set up my umbrella. Very rarely did I fish underneath an umbrella. I just find them very clumsy and they get in the way and stuff like that. So anyway, I had the umbrella up, and had all the gear sort of tucked away, and I was on my wicker basket, my good old trusty wicker basket with a sponge top, to sort of stop you getting grooves in your backside, in your buttocks, as many of us did in those early days before someone discovered that it's probably best to put a sponge on there. So I used to get a elasticated, what they call them, like elasticated sort of, I'm trying to think of the word of them there. You know what I mean, like the wraps that used to go, bungee straps, that's it, bungee. I knew I'd get there in the end. So I put a couple of bungee straps on the foam and sit on that, and it was quite comfortable, as opposed to sitting on the hard wicker, especially when you was there for a long old session. And anyway, so this wind started picking up, and I was looking at the skies, and it was coming over really dark and cloudy, and around about 4 o'clock it was dark. I mean, proper dark. It was almost, if I'd had a head torch on, I think I would have used it. It came over really dark, and the heavens opened up, and it absolutely fell down, and it was windy and all. It was like, when I think back at it, it was almost like it was like a little mini tornado, and it lasted for about half an hour, and I was having to actually hang on to my umbrella. I couldn't fish. I pulled the umbrella right down, And by then I found myself that I was probably one of 3 anglers that was left on the old lake. Everyone had scarpered off. They'd probably seen the weather forecast and disappeared quickly. And so I'm hanging on thinking, wow, I hope this stops. It was really lashing down, proper lashing down, and very, very windy. And if I hadn't have held on to the umbrella, that would have been long gone. It would have been up in the trees behind me. Anyway, after half an hour, it passed, and then there was like this calm. And the lake was flat as anything, as flat as it had been all day long. It was almost like a mirror effect. And it felt quite eerie, actually. It went from being the noise of the wind to you could almost hear a pin drop. So, anyway, I always used to fish with the tip of the float dotted right down, and I still do now, even though my eyes are not as good as they were then. And I had just a little bit of the Indian reed showing, and I cast out to where I've been sort of putting the little balls of ground bait out. And bearing in mind it's probably about 1.5 rod lengths out, not a long way out, but it was deep. It was about 6 foot, and I had 2 maggots on. I think they were bronze. I went for a spell of using bronze maggot then, and I cast out, and I picked up a roach, cast back out again, and the float settled, and the float would just, because I had my shot strung out, tiny little sort of number 8 shots, and the float would come down slowly, and then it would just settle. And as it settled, it just dipped under, like moved probably about half an inch, just under the surface. And at first I thought maybe I'd overshotted it, and I struck, and the old rod bent over, and it thumped away, and it tore off, and I was back winding, and turned out it was a tench about 3.5 pounds. And I thought, well, that was a nice, pleasant surprise. So I popped that in the net, because we used keep nets then, and so that went into the keep net, and I cast back out again, and almost instantly the same thing happened again, and I struck, and blimey, I was into another tench. Now, I've probably caught, in all the previous 3 or 4 seasons, I should say, probably 1 tench in all that time, and there I'd had 2 in 2 casts. So already that was a special day for me. That was brilliant. I'd had a bag full of roach, a bag full of perch, and now I've just had 2 nice tench. And after the storm and everything, it was quite weird. So I cast out again, and 5 minutes later, the float just dipped. Boom, I'm playing another tench. Netted that. I think I'm pinching myself now. I'm thinking, what's going on here? 3 casts, 3 tench on the trot, you know. Anyway, it just carried on like that for the next hour and a half. And by now, it was creeping up to, I suppose, getting on for about 6. I knew my dad was going to be coming soon, and I'm still catching tench. I'd had about 11 tench, and I just netted one, and I looked up and I see him walking along the bank, and he was like sort of looking over, and I slipped another tench in the net. So I've had like 11 tench in probably an hour and a half spell after that storm, which sort of finished about, I would say, 4:30, 4:45 time. So it was quite very obviously it must have just stirred them up. I just couldn't believe what was going on. I was pinching myself and thinking, wow, this is strange. So anyway, my dad's come along just as I looked into another one, and he's gone, what you got there? I said, a tench. He went, really? I said, yeah. So I sort of played it carefully, and it was about £4. It was one of the bigger ones that I'd had. and I'd had nothing under £3. They was all like peas in a pod, sort of between three to £4. And anyway, I netted it. He went, "Oh, that's a nice fish." I said, "Yeah." I've had a really good day today, you know. He said, "Oh," he said, "what's that? Your first one?" I said, "First what?" He said, "What, your first tench?" I said, "No, that's 12 I've had." And he looked at me and he thought, you know, "What are you talking about?" You know. I said, "Honestly, I've had 12 tench." I said, "You watch this." So I rebaited, cast out. And I said, give it 5-10 minutes. And it turned out it was about 3 minutes. The float dipped, boom. You know, I looked at it, I went, you know, I'm into another one. I said, "It's just gone absolutely ballistic." I told him about the storm, and after the storm passed and the lake went like a mirror, I said it just kicked them on, just out of the blue. I'd never had a session like it, and I think I never had a session like it after. I started to pick up tench, but nothing like that, and netted that. So I said, "Here, you have a go." And so he sat down and he caught one as well, and he couldn't believe it. So I'd had a baker's dozen of tench. My dad had had one after being here for like 10 minutes. So it was incredible, and so you know, even when I look back now, you just think to yourself, so did that burst of rain, that storm, just trigger the oxygen levels up? And then obviously, because the wind was blowing into me and all, as we know, fish follow the wind, especially a warm wind, and they must have come in, found me ground bait, me kestrel yellow ground bait that I've been feeding with a few maggots in there as well, and then just settled over me bait, and I didn't actually realise there was that many tench in there, and what an incredible day that was. So the boating lake has given me so many fantastic memories, and it sort of really taught me how to fish properly, really. You know, obviously the story that I told in episode 1 with the roach, and after finding that bag of casters, it was kind of meant to be. And then that day catching all them tench, and towards the end of the day, where a lot of people had gone home and thought, "Well, I'm not going to fish in that," they decided to go home, and left me to have one of the best ever sessions that I had on the boating lake. I must admit, it was an incredible day. My dad couldn't believe it when we obviously went back to the car, and after packing up and drove home, I was buzzing. I was absolutely buzzing. I'd had an incredible session. God knows how many perch I'd caught during the day. Had a great sort of selection of quality roach, and to finish it off with 13 tench, and even my dad caught one as well. Fantastic day, and like I say, you never really know what is round the corner, and I suppose by just persevering and being there on the bankside means that anything really is possible. And so there you go. I'm looking forward to episode 3, because in the late 60s and the 70s, we used to go on holiday to Reculver, and boy did we have some fun there, and that will be revealed in episode 3 of Reeling Back the Years. I hope you've enjoyed this little fishing story about Stormy Weather Tench, from the boating lake again. And if you have, please give the video a like, because it does help to it forces YouTube to push the videos out there. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. You will notice on the home page there's like a playlist section, and all the series of this series of videos will be listed separately. So reeling back the years, you'll be able to watch all the videos on there over time. So there you go, another memorable day for me on the Bankside, and from the 1970s. And I just wish then that we'd had more of a way of sort of recording, you know, like GoPros and digital cameras and stuff like that, and obviously the ability to take selfies, because I caught so many fish in them early days, the 70s, the 80s, and hardly ever recorded any of the catches. It was all up there. But anyway, that's for another day. Hopefully you'll join me soon for episode 3, when I talk about catching eels and rudd from the Reculver dikes. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching Fishing Tale Films, and I'll see you again soon.